What if I told you that America's 1 trillion credit card debt didn't happen by accident, and that behind every swipe, every pay later, and every interest charge, there's a system designed not to help consumers but to quietly extract wealth from them? Because here's the mystery. If the U.S. economy is supposedly growing, why is the average American falling deeper into credit card debt than at any point in history? And more importantly, who actually benefits from this trillion-dollar explosion? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the origins, the rise, the breaking point, and the fallout of America's most dangerous financial addiction. Stay with me because the truth is far more shocking than a simple spending problem. Setting the stage background plus tease to understand how America reached $1.08 trillion in credit card debt, we must go back to a time when credit cards weren't normal, and they were a luxury. In the 1950s, banks pitched them as a convenience. In the 1970s, they became a lifestyle. In the 1990s, they turned into a profit machine. And today, they've evolved into something even more powerful, a financial system where banks profit when people lose. But this didn't happen overnight. It's the result of decades of quiet changes in laws, interest rates, marketing strategies, and economic shocks, each one pushing Americans deeper into dependency. And as we move through this story, you'll see a pattern. Every time the system breaks, the solution creates even bigger problems. Origins: how credit cards began the trap. The story starts in the 1950s with Diners Club, the first general-purpose credit card. It wasn't debt-driven yet. It was simply a card for wealthy businessmen to settle expenses. But banks saw a bigger opportunity. By the 1960s, Bank of America introduced the Bank Americard, today known as Visa. Their business model was simple: make credit easy to access, charge interest to those who fall behind, profit not from responsible customers, but from struggling ones. But there was a problem. Back then, states had interest rate caps, meaning banks couldn't charge the high rates they charge today. So how did they get around this? Single Supreme Court case in 1978 changed everything. Marquette National Bank v. First of Omaha, the ruling allowed banks to charge the interest rate of the state they were based in even to customers living elsewhere. This pushed major banks to relocate to states like South Dakota and Delaware, where interest rate caps were removed. And just like that, the era of unlimited interest began. The rise: how the industry created a debt-dependent society. By the 1980s and 1990s, the industry realized something important. Americans didn't need credit. They could be convinced they wanted it. So began the most aggressive marketing campaign in consumer finance history. Millions of households received credit card offers in the mail. Students on campuses were handed free pizzas for signing up. Rewards programs, points, miles, cashbacks became the bait hiding the hook. Meanwhile, another shift was happening. Wages stopped growing, costs kept rising, credit filled the gap. From groceries to medical bills, Americans slowly got used to a new reality. If you can't afford it, swipe for it. By the early 2000s, credit card debt had become a pillar of the consumer economy. Banks weren't just lenders anymore, they were architects of lifestyle spending. But even then, the system hadn't reached its final form. That happened after the 2008 financial crisis. Breaking point: how the modern system supercharged debt. When the 2008 crash hit, millions of Americans lost jobs, homes, and savings. Many households used credit cards just to survive. But the bigger shift happened behind the scenes. The Federal Reserve slashed interest rates to near zero, hoping to stimulate the economy. Credit became cheap for banks, but not for consumers. While banks borrowed money at almost 0%, they charged consumers 15% to 30% APR, sometimes higher. This is the moment when the credit card industry transformed into a permanent debt engine, and then came the pandemic. 2022-2023 was the perfect storm. Stimulus checks boosted spending, inflation hit 40-year highs. Living costs surged, savings disappeared, and in 2023, something historic happened. America crossed $1 trillion in credit card debt for the first time ever. But the most alarming part wasn't the amount, it was the speed. $1 trillion didn't build slowly, exploded. Because while prices rose, wages didn't. And once again, Americans turned to the one thing they could fall back on: credit. Fallout: who pays the price? Right now, The average American carries over $6,000 in credit card debt. But this is just the surface. The real damage comes from interest. In 2024, Americans paid over $200 billion in credit card interest alone, more than the budgets of several U.S. government agencies combined. This is wealth that doesn't build homes, doesn't fund education, doesn't grow savings. It simply transfers from households to banks. And while consumers suffer, banks have reported record profits from interest income. But there's another hidden fallout. Delinquencies are rising fast. Young adults are defaulting at the highest rate in 2 decades. More people are using credit cards for daily essentials like groceries and fuel. This isn't normal. It's a signal. System pushed to its limits. Failed fixes why nothing has worked over the past decades. Politicians have proposed interest caps, debt forgiveness, credit card reform bills, consumer protection rules, but none of them solve the root problem, because the real issue is structural. An economy where wages don't match living costs. A financial system that profits from consumer struggle, a culture conditioned to normalize debt as a lifestyle. Even the newest trends, BNPL apps, digital credit lines, instant loans, are just the modern version of the same old trap. Buy now, pay later. Pay more. Repeat. Modern parallels repeating patterns. Shocking data history is repeating itself in real time. In the 1980s, credit filled the gap between wages and inflation. Today, it's happening again. In the 1990s, banks expanded, targeting young consumers. Today, Gen Z is the fastest growing segment in credit card debt. In the 2000s, credit became the foundation of lifestyle spending. Today, it's the foundation of survival spending. And here's the most chilling parallel. Every economic downturn in modern history has been followed by an explosion in consumer debt. Right now, the trend is repeating, but on a scale the U.S. has never seen before. Final takeaways clear, practical, impactful. Takeaway number 1. The system is designed to keep people in debt, not through force, but through subtle incentives, rising costs, and psychological marketing. Takeaway number 2. Debt is no longer about luxury, it's about survival. Consumers aren't overspending, they're trying to keep up in an economy built on rising expenses. Takeaway number 3. The trillion-dollar explosion didn't happen suddenly. It's the result of 50 years of law changes, corporate strategy, and economic pressure converging. Closing warning. As long as the gap between wages and living costs grows, credit card debt will keep rising. And the next financial crisis may not come from banks collapsing, but from households collapsing under the weight of interest. The question isn't how did we get here? It's how much longer can this system hold before something breaks? Call to action. Natural, not salesy. If you found this breakdown valuable and want more deep dive investigations into the hidden forces shaping our financial world, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and share this video with someone who needs to understand what's really happening behind the headlines. Because the more informed we are, the harder it becomes for these systems to operate in the shadows.